believe it or not, was way back in July. Did I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I move to accept the minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Not that I recall.
Okay. And all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Meetings have been adopted. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is a discussion, and I think, considering that Bart is not here yet, I think, we'll change the order a little bit. Next on our agenda would be this discussion around the traffic challenges in New Village and our progress toward responding to that with some kind of outreach project. And we'll skip to the review and discussion of the draft parking study report and recommendations. And we have our trustee advisors and contractors from Stratford Regional Planning Commission here. And I think, do you have a presentation planned, or did you want to just
gonna walk through the recommendations.
Okay, that sounds good.
I can outline some of the things from the study findings as well, since I don't think I ever did present those, but I can't remember. Just overall occupancy of parking in the study area, which included downtown and the satellite lots, in the downtown area was really pretty high. And after 5 p.m. you're getting 100% occupancy of parking spaces. So plenty of demand for that. The lowest occupancy rates were in the satellite lots.
Do you want to briefly, just before you jump in?
Oh yeah.
Outline the area that
Yes.
that was included, and the days of the weekend times that were, just so that everybody who's out there has a good feel for it.
Let me get back to that. And I was looking at the recommendations this morning or today to refamiliarize myself. I didn't think to send some of those key components. So we basically looked at the downtown core, including the Jerry Ave, 108, and South Main Street, through the downtown, along Main Street, the old bank lot, all the way up to the large parking area around the library, and that commercial kind of center. Satellite locks, we looked at Dame Road off of North Main Street, the Bay Road lot, Beach Street just west of here, and the Railroad Street lot, and that. So it was really that core downtown area.
You didn't go up the hill or down the hill? Okay.
No. For times, where did that go? I need to make sure I'm getting this right, since we did one in Somersworth and I get that mixed up. I know we did 2 weekdays and a weekend day.
It was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yes.
May.
And the Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, was pouring all morning.
Truncated.
Yeah.
It was a monsoon.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. We had the tent, but it was raining pretty hard. So I believe we got pretty good data despite the rain, and it showed a clear pattern of people are coming to town and needing a place to park, and you're starting to get people circling, looking for spaces, and not taking advantage of those satellite lots and walking into town. So that's just sort of the overall picture. So any other questions on the study itself? at this point? Okay. So put together some recommendations based on that. Bart and Lindsay took a look, and one of the first things was, well, so to back up a little bit, I've been speaking with the Dover and Portsmouth parking directors, Ben Fletcher from Portsmouth and Bill Simons from Dover, and they are both a wealth of experience because they're the two big communities in the region with actual metered parking. So I would say you guys are a little bit behind Rochester in terms of developing this parking research. So you have a lot to learn from Rochester as well, from their initial investigations they've done about what a switch over to metered parking would look like. So I kind of, in the future, I'd recommend a meeting with Bill Simons and Ben Fletcher and they both said that they would definitely like to do that, and maybe partner with Somersworth as well, because they're a little behind you guys in terms Newmarket in terms of the occupancy kind of getting to that maximum level. They've got some parking that remains underutilized, and the key messages that I've gotten from reading and talking to folks is that parking is about behavior management before it is about a revenue generation. You want to use your parking planning to manage people's drivers' behavior and where they go in town. So, for instance, Portsmouth sets their rates. They use a what did they call it? A progressive pricing model. So the longer you park in a single spot, the more expensive it is on the street. And they used that to drive more, to incentivize people to park in the garage off the street where you want a higher turnover rate in front of the restaurant. And if you're going to be there for the whole day to shop and bop or whatever, or sip and stroll, as we were discussing in the new district thingamajig, you want those long-term parkers in the parking garage. So you make that cheaper for them long-term, where if you're parked in Portsmouth for more than 5 hours, it's $3.25 an hour, and it starts at $1.25 an hour. So behavior management is kind of what all parking is, what that's about. And the other thing is basically valuing parking as a resource. Right now it's free, and I equate that with, if you have a congested highway, widening the highway does nothing for congestion. Yeah. It just makes that a bigger target, seems like a dramatic word, but incentivizing people to use that road because it's wider, and you just, on day one of your widening project finishing, you're back to where you were because everyone goes to that new road thinking it's wider. So free parking is kind of like that, where if you don't put a value on parking, no one will value it. And that's where you get, people circling the block for 15 minutes looking for that spot right in front of the restaurant. Those were the two big things that came out for me with research and discussions with people. So our first recommendation was to kind of conduct some additional kind of low impact outreach to understand user behavior. So getting feedback on, why people came to downtown, where did they park, how long do they intend to stay, and how would metered parking affect that decision making? Would they just pay it and still want to park right in front of the coffee shop or wherever they're going? Or could they be incentivized to park in a satellite lot and walk if that was, a nice route? I want to get your feedback on the idea of kind of testing out if metered parking were coming to town, what would that zone be, and make that really bright and bold for folks with, the town is considering this parking space that you just parked on part of the parking zone, and some way for them to give feedback, whether it's a QR code on a sign or using local businesses to kind of promote that, and get their direct feedback in a way. And I don't think you're going to struggle to get feedback on parking. That seems to be a universal issue for people to share their opinions. Yeah.
If it's about behavior management, there's the incentivization once you have metered parking. But if it's about behavior management, what are some other tools that one might utilize to, for example, express these are short-term parking spots? We don't really say anything about our parking downtown.
Yeah.
It's just there. What if it were designated very clearly, 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever, something like that, just to begin to communicate that this is, not for longer-term parking.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. And some of the feedback we got during the study was that people may be a little confused about the wide range of parking requirements or expectations around the downtown, and the lack of signage around that.
Yes.
And another model for use Dover as an example, the first 15 minutes are free. So that, if I'm going to a meeting and I want to grab something at Breakaway Cafe before my meeting, I can hop in and out and not get ticketed.
Yeah.
To be fair, it's not clear on the signs. I know that for a fact to be an actual regulation, but it isn't super clear to the average user, I don't think, in Dover.
Do you have to get a ticket, or do you?
No.
You just
can park, go in and get your coffee, get back out.
Gotcha.
I didn't know that.
In Durham, you can get parked.
Yeah.
The first hour of parking is free,
Right.
but you have to, go through the process of basically registering your car and that spot for
So-
the time.
Yeah, the technology is a whole interesting piece I can get into, and that's where the professional advice from Dover and Portsmouth is invaluable, to how things are transitioning. So getting more direct feedback on parking from folks, and I don't think that has to be a whole hire SRPC or whoever to do some mega study. It's like QR codes on little stand-up things in the coffee shop. It's just like, what are you here for? How would this change how you come to Newmarket? Those sorts of things. So I already mentioned the simplification of the diverse regulations and zones in the downtown area. Sort of related to the satellite lot, we heard from the master plan survey that a lot of residents walk or bike into town. But it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of secure locations for locking a bike up. So I wasn't really sure. I think the fact that people said they walk and bike is a good thing, and that's something to build on. So if a really high-profile bike locking space could, bring down that parking occupancy, that's significant. Incentivizing satellite lots, I already talked about that. Could be interesting to look at reconfiguration of the downtown parking, the actual stripes on the road. It's interesting that you have parallel spots and diagonal spots right next to each other. So that's something we can look into more and find some direct examples, and even project that on the downtown if you could get more spaces by just changing the lines. So we could potentially do that in GIS and you could get 5 more spaces or whatever. And we're definitely going to do, as part of the study, map out the capacity of, what's the street? I'm blanking. Yes. No, Packers Falls. That was part of the study agreement, was that we would do that math if, with parallel or diagonal spaces. That was just an off request as part of the study development. Like, if development is going to be happening more in these outer areas, could that street have parking capacity? And that's an easy, no-brainer exercise for us to do.
Are you referring to on-street parking?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Where was I? So again, so the metered parking, you know, at this rate, it's an interesting question whether you would even need to install meter kiosks. I forget the exact percentages. It's in an email I sent to myself a while ago, but it's transitioning to phone apps, and everyone I talked to was also everyone says, and I agree, I don't want to download another dang app on my phone just to park and get a coffee in a town I haven't been to before. But Portland, I think Ben Fletcher was the one who said Portland, 60% of their parking revenues come from the phone app. Portsmouth is getting close to 50%, and both Dover and Portsmouth said they're going to be reducing the number of actual metered kiosks in town because it's shifting to phone-based. So you're in this weird, interesting transition zone where it's the majority of your revenues and parking usage would be managed through an app, which it sounds like it's ultimately could be less expensive overall transitioning to metered parking rather than putting in the booths and collections of the money and all that stuff. So that's just something to consider.
Colin, do we know if towns surrounding us are using the same app?
So that's the other thing, is that Portsmouth and Dover both have different apps. So that's the other thing. There are a whole bunch of app producers out there, and so that was something again to get together with Somersworth and Rochester. It would be really awesome if the entire Seacoast could have one app. It's just like Park in the Seacoast or New Hampshire, God forbid, so that you could go to be in Portsmouth for the day and come up to Newmarket or vice versa or whatever, and have even like park for the day, and it's like $10, park forever for that day wherever you want in any of these communities. So currently it is a patchwork of apps. So that's an inconvenience for users, definitely.
It is. I mean, speaking personally, I knew about the 15 minutes in Dover, and I have that app because I go into Dover, but if I needed to come into town here, if I didn't live in Newmarket and I knew I had to just run in and stop and I had to download an app or use a different app, I would find another way to skin the cat.
Yeah.
But that's personal. I'm not a phone person.
Before we, did Dover and Portsmouth, before going to, I guess they've had metered parking for a long time, but are they using any other strategies that are not tied to meters, or that could be utilized regardless of whether you have metered parking? That would be interesting to look at.
Certainly sort of planning and zoning type of strategies where Dover has parking maximums rather than parking minimums. And there is a contingent of folks in Portsmouth that are deliberately car-free, and that it's small, and that's sort of one of their economic development goals is, in the future, could a person live car-free in Dover? And there's similar things happening in Portsmouth where I don't know the state of it, but there was a proposal for a new apartment building in the downtown core restaurant area that would have zero parking added. That was explicitly meant to be people working in Portsmouth in food service that could live above where they work and not have to park a car, and then not use valuable real estate for parking. Right. That could be a restaurant or housing, that sort of thing. So that's more in the line of planning and zoning. I did mention in here something that we talked about during the transportation study or the transportation chapter of like shared use, incentivizing shared parking. That's come up with the road safety audit too. If Rite Aid or it's a former Rite Aid, right? Not a Walgreens. It's Rite Aid's the ones that's going out, right? Could you link those parking lots and get rid of some curb cuts, kind of thing? So managing behavior and that sort of physically infrastructure wise. But yeah, that's a good question. Managing, making sure timely access for local freight delivery. Space is tight down there, and they still need, coffee cups and scones and stuff in the morning for the bakeries and those different businesses. And you're also going to have to factor in employee and resident parking. I actually didn't know, and I didn't think to ask Lindsay when we were chatting, is there a residential permit system for folks like on the hill around downtown? There's there are permit parking zones, I thought, on some of the back streets. So just if you're, in terms of behavior management, if you put meters up in the downtown, that's inevitably going to push those people who would rather park in front of the restaurant, grumpily driving through neighborhoods looking for an open space. So, meters and clearly designating this is not for, visiting downtown businesses. This is where people who live here park, kind of designating those zones a little bit.
Did you get any feedback or any word on guiding people to, especially in Portsmouth, I guess, guiding visitors directly to parking garages, emphasizing because I mean that's a strategy that I've observed elsewhere, rather than just allowing people to just come in and find their own. Try to design approaches into town that where the easiest way to get into town is essentially ending up at a parking garage.
Well, I think that's a mix of good marketing, clear signage, and that's one of the benefits of the app-based system is like, here's the price for on-street, here's the price for garage, and then, if you're going to be here long-term, park in the garage. So there are some ways to do that, aside from, all roads lead to the parking garage kind of thing. Yeah.
Through local traffic only, or residents only kind of thing, so that you don't have. It's not so easy to just drive through town looking for a park. If you know that you need to park, and the first thing that you'll do is look for the white P on the blue background to find parking.
And you remind me of another thing I read in the studies. The parking guru, like wonky policy guy, is Donald Shoup. And I've read a little bit of his. He studied parking for his entire career, and wrote very interesting pieces on it. And one of the pieces I read in there that stood out was like, no one knows what they're doing in terms of parking, and everyone has copied everyone else, kind of thing. It's just like, well, we don't know what we're doing. What are they doing? Let's ask them. And like, we don't know what we're doing. Here's what we did, and everyone copied that. So there's no like, there are formulas for how to do parking, but it's all based on like what other people did, and there's not like the engineering manual for how to design a bridge for parking. Yeah. It's wild and very, very interesting in a weird way. So parking garages are tricky, and that's where you benefit from Rochester's experience, because they've been looking into that. It is stupid expensive. There are outfits that it's modular, like Lego based. It's Lego garages For a 300 to 400 space structure, it's 50 grand per space, so they're looking at a $20 million bonded thing. They're not seriously considering that right now. And I talked to Mike Scala today to kind of get those numbers from him. So Dover's garage that's over by the police station, for reference, was about 15 grand per space back when that was built. So totally different world. That's to say nothing of the fact that I don't know what the minimum footprint would be. I don't know that you could just slap a parking garage on top of the lot by the library and be done with it. That's a big can of worms. So, yeah. So many other things to learn from Rochester from what they've been looking at. We already talked a little bit about, their land use and regulations and zoning things you can do as part of this. There's always, consider where it would be appropriate to reserve space for electric vehicle charging. Dover's parking includes incentives for business owners that, as I said, there are parking minimums, but they can get around, a business owner can get around those minimums by setting aside spaces for, and getting them ready for public EV chargers. They don't have to put in the chargers, but making sure the conduit can get to those spaces in the future. So they kind of incentivize that through their parking regs.
And is that primarily redevelopment or redevelopment? Not necessarily retrofitting existing parking lots?
I think, yes. I think it's what you said, the redevelopment or new.
Rochester also has developed wayfinding for parking, correct?
Yeah, that was part of their whole wayfinding thing, and it's worked out. Mike was saying the other day he wished he had gone one font size higher than he did. But the wayfinding is,
good feedback.
yeah, and it looks nice. I love. They did a really cool job with the logo and stuff. So again, Mike Scala is your guy to talk to for that. Yeah, and parking was definitely a big piece of that, where to park and recreation sites and so forth. And sort of to that, I didn't know if the town had a sort of census or inventory of private, public, and in between lots. It may exist kind of anecdotally, but what land is currently parking or could be, and kind of what's the ownership of that, to get a sense of where parking could expand or be paired with anticipated future development. It's sort of to that is the bank lot, that if that were fully privatized, that's 18 spots. If it was privatized and only for people going to that business, that would be 18 spots that are lost, and that sounds like a small number, but it's not, given the occupancy levels.
It is private.
And it sounds like it was in part of the study area, and it's basically used for public parking at this point. So
I think one thing that the study showed was that it was even the drive-through were being used.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually more than 18. I think it's more like 24, they were saying.
okay,
the
because it's
study
not an
says.
active drive-through. People are
Right.
Oh,
So
okay, yeah.
so it's actually more like 24 spots that would have to be made up.
Yep.
I think that's the number, but it's more than 18. I know that.
Yeah. So I think that pretty much covers the specific recommendations we had. Again, really interesting phone calls with Dover and Portsmouth parking folks. It's been their career for a long time, so they're really in the know. Yeah.
Considering it's such a big issue, has there ever been kind of a regional, parking strategy summit or something like that? Or
No, but
No.
Portsmouth paid for a big deal study with a mega consulting firm a number of years, not that long ago. That has some other. We pulled some pieces out of there of interest from that.
So what would you consider
starting points to some more information gathering, I guess, would be good. Maybe visiting some, I don't know, where do we start with this? Because I don't know that metered parking is really a way to start. That seems like the wrong end of the stick to begin with. If we have a underutilized parking lots within easy walking distance to downtown, it seems to me that a better place to start might be to develop a strategy to make those more attractive, incentivize, change behavior. And one way might be, to install EV chargers at one or two of them to begin that process, and of course the whole wayfinding piece. What does it look like? What does a Newmarket parking lot look like?
Right.
And how do I find it? Because the metered parking, it would be nice if we waited and we could just leapfrog the technology and forget about kiosks altogether.
Yeah. So I think it's that. I think a meeting with Ben and Bill, along with Somersworth and Rochester, and whoever, I don't know if that's coming, them all coming to a committee meeting, but certainly with at least Bart and Lindsay, to get some perspective from them. Again, Rochester, I think, they are getting close to metered parking. I think they're a little closer than you all, just because they've taken a few more steps a couple of years ahead. And yeah, I agree. I think going straight to tackling metered parking as a strategy would be premature at this point. And collecting some of that additional information, do some sort of, I don't know if I've heard the term guerrilla marketing, but just like low key, like 2 or 3 questions on a QR code. Take this while while folks are waiting for their coffee at Crack Skulls, those sorts of things. Compile some of that, and
maybe more of a long-term or a year-long kind of approach to also maybe some data collection over a longer period of time, rather than a summertime or good weather time exclusive snapshot.
And then we at SRPC can look at could reconfiguration of the lines do anything. I don't know if physically it's possible to, for instance, just change all the parallel to diagonals, which diagonal gets you more spaces, but it also brings the cars, it reduces your width, and it's already pretty tight down there, which slows the cars down, which is a good thing, but it can only go so far. Right. So I think those 3 things to start with would be the easiest and best things at this point.
I think it's interesting that we have, I think if I read the study correctly, there was, people were overstaying the 2-hour parking limit in the spots that had the 2-hour parking limit. And, one thing that I find intriguing about the idea of doing a survey of, like, why are you here? There's not a lot, or maybe I'm missing something, but what do you do in Newmarket, if you're coming into Newmarket, what are you doing in Newmarket that's over 2 hours? Because the majority of our businesses in this town are restaurants.
Yeah.
So what are people doing? And I'm wondering if some of that parking isn't residents taking up spots, because I do believe that, down on South Main, is it South Main, like, what do you call it, Exeter Road, those lots, I think those were residents sitting there, because there's the same cars over and over and over again.
Oh, yeah, on Exeter Road.
Yeah.
In the bowl.
In the bowl.
Yeah. Yep, they were the same.
But I wonder, because it also said that some of the Weaver lots were filling up.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't some of the don't people who live in the mills park,
Mm-hmm.
so that they're, so there are reserved, part of that is reserved for those residents.
But if they don't have capacity there and they're filling up, are some of those people parking on the street? I don't know. I'm just postulating here. That, like, so what are you doing? How long does it take to go out to dinner or to go out to lunch? It's not, so in other words, in Portsmouth, I would park and walk all day in Portsmouth. I could spend 3 or 4 hours in Portsmouth. We don't have that kind of retail here. So what are people doing that they're here for more than 2
I
hours?
guess that would be one of those things to find out,
Yeah.
for sure.
People when they come in.
And when they come in,
Yeah.
yeah.
The other question, I guess, is also how well known is it that there is a time limit?
And is it
You
enforced?
arrive and you're just parking, and that's it. Do you pay attention to how long can I park? Nobody does that. So I think that if we instead of going the metered route right away, maybe be really clear about this is our parking, this is Newmarket public parking, establish a brand around that even on street, and describe how, what the rules are around this parking, here's the time limit, or whatever we want to call it. This is short-term public parking. Begin to build the value, so that you're communicating the value, and then at some point you may decide to charge for it if that even makes sense.
Well, and you remind me that another easy source of data, more or less anecdotal data, is from your parking enforcement, because they gave out 7 tickets while we were during the study period. So parking enforcement is happening, and that's a good source of information about if there are spaces if parking enforcement folks know where to go to where people are parking or overstaying. We saw the same thing in Somersworth, by the way, where folks were sometimes parked all day, and also restaurant owners were saying that their customers keep getting ticketed because the time limit is too low for them to stay for a whole meal. So yeah, I think you're right. You can get more information kind of on the sly about why people are coming, and if they're staying for a long time, what are they doing? If it's for an hour of shopping with a couple hours of dinner after, you can get a little more detail that way. So I'm confident in saying we could easily set up something simply we do QR code based surveys, and it all can be done on the phone, or even little paper slips, or just restaurant owners making conversation with people while you're waiting for your food or whatever. A couple of questions.
I wonder, Chief George, can we put a flyer every time you give a ticket? Say, hey, why don't you overstay?
Yeah. While you're pissed.
Exactly. Is that legal?
I have no idea. What is the cost of a parking ticket in Newmarket?
Generally between $20 and $30.
Oh, that's a bargain. I got charged a whole lot more in another
I have
town.
some information I'd like to share with you guys
Yes.
when you feel that's appropriate. So first of all, during the parking study that you guys did.
Come on up if you don't mind, and join Colin at the table.
Alright. So during the parking study, our parking enforcement officer worked for 4 hours of the 3 days.
Yeah.
So we didn't give out a lot of tickets. Our system is pretty archaic. In order to give out tickets for overtime parking, we have to send somebody down, mark all the tires, they go back 2 hours if somebody stays over. And, there's a variety of reasons why they may or may not get a ticket. Generally, if they're over, that doesn't happen very often. I mean, in a given day, when the parking enforcement officer works, they're only working for 4 or 5 hours. It's more of the idea of the presence. They see the parking officer and people run out and move. As far as people staying all day, the people that are staying all day are the residents that live in the apartments that are mainly on the main street and off the main street, and a lot of the business owners. And they all become very accustomed to seeing the parking enforcement officer, and if they know the parking enforcement officer is there in the morning, then in the afternoon they can just park there and be there all day. He talked a little bit about incentivizing, and I know you said that you weren't a big fan of going to the metered parking right away. I am, and a lot of the people that he was speaking to, we've been speaking to Dover, Portsmouth, Bangor, Maine, Somersworth, and my lieutenant has been doing a lot of research talking to these companies about metered parking and changing the ordinance. That's where we're at right now, let's move forward. We've talked to 3 different vendors, and we want to move forward. Our system is very archaic. There is information. Every pole downtown has a sign that says what the parking regulations are. And I know that you say people don't look at it. I agree. I agree. And it's confusing. For example, if you buy a permit for a parking lot, the Bay Road parking lot, it only guarantees you a spot from 1 till 5 in the morning. So you can park there overnight. It was tied into the winter parking ban. We do raise money that way. We sell permits. People will start buying them now, so they have winter parking. And those satellite lots are mainly used for that. But we don't generate a lot of revenue because of the ticketing. It's just, like I said, it's an old way to do it. The good thing about if you have metered parking is what you're hoping is most people are just paying it. You know, you're not getting money from the tickets so much, even though you do get some. It's more, 70 to 80% of the people are going to just pay. They're going to see a sign. As far as the kiosks go, we spoke to both Portsmouth and Dover, and I can't remember, you said one of them has kiosks, the other one's trying to get rid of them. They said don't go with the kiosks, they're a pain. Yeah. There's a way to call in if you don't want to use the app on your phone, which was a concern, the kiosks being downtown. But the parking is not just, we have to decide what we're doing, for metered parking and all that. We have to redraft the ordinance and, say, make it more uniform. Say we can park here, these are the hours, It's very, we basically wrote it 30, 40 years ago and we just kept adding on to it, to talk about different places. But I will say this, you do not change people's parking behavior unless you give them some incentive to not park there. I don't know what that incentive is other than fees or fining them to get them to move, because when they know that they're not going to be ticketed or they know that there's no enforcement, they go right out there and they stay there all day and they get accustomed to seeing, the parking enforcement officer out there, or knowing that, specific days we're not out there.
Right.
So.
Which I guess that metered parking would kind of circumvent that. Good.
More supply.
What's that?
Add more supply.
Yeah.
So, I guess my question is, are there opportunities? I think I beat this drum too much, but are there opportunities to park on street more so than there already exists? At least during the spring, late spring, summer, fall months.
Could we make more opportunities available
On street parking.
through striping, you mean?
Striping.
Mm-hmm.
One side street parking. I mean, to me, I feel that question has, at least to my knowledge, hasn't been explored enough or even considered, maybe. I don't know. You've been here for more longer than I have, so
I definitely think there's some opportunities to add parking spaces, but I wouldn't do that without revamping the ordinance and going to some sort of pay system. There's some issues around town. An example would be Nichols Avenue. There's parking on the street there other than the winter ban, but cars park on both sides. We've had issues with getting fire trucks and ambulances down there because it's very chaotic how, like, this car pulls up over here, this car pulls up over here. So it's not striped at all. But then there's another street. Central Street is a one-way street. We probably could add some parking. It's wide enough to add some parking. but you'd have to stripe it because it's not wide enough the entire length to do it. So there are some opportunities to add some parking, and potentially you could do that to Spring Street, although there's a lot of driveways, so I don't know how great that would be.
But to that point too, I think it slows people down. I know on Spring Street people speed, so if we add some more, opportunities for parking, that might, do some more traffic calming in some areas as well.
I also think part of the thing to going to a metered system, but not just a metered system for like timed parking, it would help us as far as the parking in these lots, people buying permits and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And another example is downtown, somebody wants to do some construction and they want to put a dumpster in front of their business for a week or whatever. There's really no system in place to address that. And yeah, we'll let you put a dumpster there, but it's going to cost you $100 or whatever. Whatever the town decides would be the fee. But there's things that could be dealt with that we're not dealing with now because we really don't have anything in place for that.
Right.
And somebody spoke about the area on Exeter Street. That is 100% residents, and the only time you'll see them move from those spots is on November 15th when the winter parking ban goes into effect, and we put notices saying, hey, you can't be out here at all. And then they'll all move back into their driveways. But so that doesn't add any parking to the downtown. There's some businesses there close to the corner. One used to be Johnny Boston's and some of the other ones. If you're thinking people are going to park there and walk up, there's no parking there just because the residents just take it up. So
It's also hidden
yeah,
from view.
right.
Unless you know
it's
it.
not
Yeah.
a great.
Yeah.
You have to cross the street. There's no
Right.
sidewalk. There's no sidewalk
terrible
up. So, but you could revamp it. You could put a crosswalk there, or light it up better if you made it parking for some of those businesses down there.
I'm just going to throw this out there again, and nobody will like it, but my ideal would be to close that stretch of Exeter Road and Route 108 up toward here and have a circle and circulate that way and put a parking garage that you can access from Main Street at level, going down. That's what I would do
So you would
if I could.
You would close Exeter Street from Jerry Ave to the Blinken Light?
Yes.
And what about the residents that?
The residents there would still be a way for them to get in and out.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
What would that gain? I'm just trying to.
Well,
imagine.
what it would gain is it would connect that kind of island between Jerry Ave and Exeter Road. That neighborhood island would be reconnected to the riverside and into that neighborhood, and you wouldn't have two state routes essentially going through town. I don't know if there's enough room there for a circle, but from a volume perspective, it's certainly been done in the state with state routes.
I'm sure it has been, and I know there's been some discussion about different things rerouting that road. That road, Jerry Ave, gets significant traffic both in the morning and the afternoon,
yes.
and it backs up. I can only imagine adding to that would make it even more difficult. Now, I'm not saying there's not a solution to it, but there was some discussion about turning South Main Street or 152 into a one-way from Main Street to South Street.
Yep.
That would put all the traffic in the morning down to the bottom of Jerry Ave, making a left-hand turn.
Right. I don't think that's a good idea either.
Disastrous.
That's why I think having one route with a traffic circle that can distribute well might be a better solution. But I think I just had to put that out there.
No.
Because it's one.
I hear you. That's a 50-year plan to divert the traffic around the downtown, so to speak.
Because we do need a solution for the traffic pattern too, somehow. But back to your.
So getting back to this,
yeah.
We've talked to a lot of these people, and maybe we jumped a little bit. We weren't necessarily involved a lot in this. We've talked to them. We've also been in the meantime trying to redraft the parking ordinance to bring it up to speed, and also maybe, be available for if we go to one of these programs. Our thoughts on it were this: one, the parking tickets we have right now, $20, $30, not much of an incentive. Some people are like, yeah, give me a parking ticket, I'm gonna sit here all day, you know, so, we wanna change the parking fee structure anyway, to incentivize people to move along, and then have a system that maybe we look at the parking as an asset, and maybe that revenue would help us either purchase more parking, or, you know, he talked about a parking garage, or give us some sort of infrastructure with the fees that could help add parking to the downtown.
I like that you, how recent is the outreach that you've done to Portsmouth and Dover? Recent enough for you to, this
Within
is
the
something.
last 2 weeks.
Yeah, okay, good. Then,
We talked to both the Dover and Portsmouth parking guy. They were a wealth of knowledge. One had an idea that kiosks were okay. The other one said, no, every time a kiosk breaks, I get rid of it. I don't replace it, because most of the people use the app. And he talked about different ways, but their big thing was, you know, changing people's behavior, and you know, they felt most of it was not as much enforcement, but it was just the fees from the general. Most everybody, when they see they got to pay, just pay it, and
Right.
you know, now we got to go out and put somebody out there to collect those fees. For this, most people would just be, you know, paying the fees without us doing much work. And there's several different companies too that do all this work. Some of them, there's no cost up front. They're willing to do all the work, all the signs, everything, and then they take a percentage of whatever revenue comes in. And then other ones are like, okay, you put up a certain amount of money, and then, you know, you guys keep the revenue. So
do you have copies?
I don't have copies of this, but I can get it. I can get some copies and get it to all you guys.
That would be great.
Yeah. In this particular folder is just the 3 companies that we were talking to. Park Mobile is one of them, and the Dover has a different one. And
Yeah, everybody has a different
yeah,
one, which is very annoying.
I think I went to Concord. Concord and Dover may have the same one.
No, it's also
Flowbird,
slightly
Dover's
different.
Flowbird.
So Flowbird just got bought out by somebody. Was
Yeah.
it Park Mobile?
I think that sounds familiar, all the little
Yeah.
startups are getting
I'll be
bought
honest
up.
with you, the one in Portsmouth seems to work the easiest for me, you know, because once you've been there once, you just hit the button and it remembers what you did. And
The one in Durham is kind of slow and not my favorite, but I agree. The one in Dover is a little bit more cumbersome compared to one in Portsmouth. Everybody probably has their own favorites, but
yeah,
it would be nice to use one that's
so
really well known and very easy to utilize. If
my
we go that
lieutenant
way.
is the one who did a lot of the research, and he felt the Park Mobile one seemed to be
Yeah.
the best. But again, we were just trying to look into different options and be able to bring some information.
No, that's good. That saves a big step. I think the piece that's kind of missing for me is the marketing of parking. You know, we don't really do a good job making our parking look good either. You know, like, so this is where you park, and this is a friendly place to park, and here's, you know, how the parking works in town, and if you want to stay longer, then you go here. You can't find that information, and I think we need to have that, and I think we also need to be very clear, clearly incentivizing utilizing satellite lots if you're going to park all day. It's just
I do
it's
think
just
though
silly.
I don't know what the incentive is if you don't put a fee somewhere.
Yeah.
I've been here for a long time. I've seen a lot of things. I live right next to the Bay Road parking lot, so I see a lot of the parking there. I love walking downtown because I can just walk from my house across the bridge. I don't have to worry about parking.
Right.
You talked about the Weaver lot. The Weaver lot is mostly private. We have some spots in there. On a Thursday or a Friday night, it's completely full.
Totally.
And the citizens that live in the mills and want to park there go crazy because they're mad they can't park in their spot. So they call the station and they're like, well, can we park, you know, here because we don't have any parking spots? And a lot of times we'll be like, yeah, do whatever you gotta do, you know, as long as it's not snowing. But that ends up happening a lot because that everyone perceives that lot as a municipal lot. Now there are some spots over by the library, again, not well marked, you know, but those are spots that people can stay in till 1 in the morning, and then they have to have a permit to park there. So, but the other thing is this: there's people that will ride. You said ride around the block. They'll ride around the block. They'll drive past 10 parking spots to park because they want to park right. Everybody wants to park right in front of something. An example would be during the day. Most days, downtown in front of the Big Bean and some of the coffee shops are full. But if you go down in front of the Legion or in front of the Riverworks, those spots are open. It's literally a 60-second walk to get to the Big Bean, but nobody wants to park there.
Right.
So,
It is also uncomfortable parking there.
it is.
I think so.
Yeah, definitely.
I wonder if it's more of a comfort level.
Getting out,
Where's
getting out of
this?
the car and stuff.
At the Blinking Light, 108, those parking spots next to Riverworks and Johnny
Yeah.
Boston.
Oh,
The traffic is like
yeah.
intimidating when
Yeah.
you're trying to get out and stuff.
Especially as you go into 152 or South Street.
I mean, it's another good reason to maybe close that stretch of Exeter Road and.
Be reconfigured.
Crosswalks there
Redesign.
are a little more,
Redesign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you need to cross there too, if you park down there, you need to cross, it's a little scarier than other places in town to cross.
Do we have the number of spots in all of the public or town-owned lots that we have?
Probably have that data. We did. At least downtown.
We certainly have the number of spots for the study area, which is.
Do we have a
pretty much all of it.
definition, a working definition as to what is walkable to downtown, what we consider walking distance? Is there, are you aware of something that, a
Transit
general
uses-
rule?
Transit
Oh,
uses
no.
generally 15 minutes is the maximum that your average person is going to walk to a bus stop.
Yeah.
So that's a different thing.
Yeah.
So I would say it's got to be under 5 minutes. Sounds like a long.
Seconds.
If
Seconds.
if people start like circling the block if they can't park literally in front of the Big Bean, I don't understand that, but yeah, it's like 2 minutes is probably going to be the max based on current anecdotal behavior. If you make someone walk more than a minute, they're going to start circling rather than
I was
getting
just
out.
thinking if we collect that, we certainly need to have all of that information, and if we were to follow your advice, Chief, about your preference for metered parking downtown, we certainly want to roll something like that out carefully, and we want to make sure that all the businesses and all the residents downtown are aware of where they could park instead. And we, especially for residents, I'm not so worried about business owners because you can arrive for work in the morning, walk 5 minutes or whatever, but for residents, I think it's a different story. But we would want to be able to communicate with them where they can park instead, and offer them, this is what it would cost you in order to do so. And for residents, considering that we struggle with affordability in this town, I would hate to add the cost of parking to somebody's monthly expenses if you're a downtown resident.
I will say this, it's miraculous that during the winter parking ban, which
They all disappear.
they all disappear, and we don't really have any issues. There are a few people that buy overnight permits for the satellite lots, and some are more popular. The Water Street lot's very popular downtown. A lot of the landlords are buying those permitted spots for their tenants, so they can say, yeah, you have parking and stuff like that. I certainly think anything that we rolled out would have to be like, we'd have to have like an ad campaign, or we'd have to really do an informational thing, and it wouldn't be something that would happen overnight. And I also think that, as we were talking to a few of these companies, that they're familiar with that process. They're like, as far as getting the information out, like, hey, this week, we're just going to let you know that the app is up and running. It doesn't cost anything, but, familiarize yourself with it or something like that. And then, try and figure out a system. one of the places was saying, try an area and see how that goes and see how it works. But there's several different thoughts on how you would roll that out. There's other options too that, you could do, for example, like you talked about the car charging spots. You can charge different fees for those if you want to, because they're using the electricity, or you want to incentivize electric cars, you can turn it off, or specific holidays or days of the week, you can say we're not charging on those days and things like that. Or if there's a snowstorm coming, we want everyone to go to the lots, that's free. If you stay on the street, it's going to cost you, stuff like that. But
Have you seen areas, so like, think about like a fee, like a fine structure, like almost like a Euclidean, as you go out, it gets less and less expensive if you get a ticket.
yeah, he was just talking about that.
Sorry,
You were discussing.
Yeah, the progressive pricing, Portsmouth has progressive pricing for, first 2 hours is $125 an hour, 3 to 4 hours is $225, and then up to $325 an hour for on-street.
I'm talking about the stick portion. So on our end, when we're doing parking enforcement,
Oh.
it's more expensive in those areas that we want to have open.
Oh, for
And
ticketing.
As you move out,
Yeah.
it
Is that
gets
okay?
less and less expensive.
See, you definitely could do that, but we have such a small parking area. I think that would get a little strange. I just think we should increase
In general.
the general price of a ticket. I'm not saying we have to go this high, but like UNH is $75 to $100. But that incentivizes somebody to not park there. I'm not exaggerating when we give people a $20 ticket. They're like $20. I'll just add that on to my bill at dinner. So.
I think it goes hand in hand too. Is like, if we do have that high enforcement fee or fine, but then we make parking passes cheaper, and then you have a certain amount of time where
Right.
certain time of days where you can use those parking passes.
Yeah.
In certain areas. So I wonder if it's just pulling levers and
I
what.
think right now for a year pass it's $400.
Okay.
So
And that park just in the lots.
that's in the lots.
No. Okay.
That's for the year?
Yeah.
I wonder if, Durham has that little downtown lot behind Main Street. And that used to be just free parking up until fairly recently. I wonder if we couldn't get their, perspective since they've instituted it. What's been the result? Is there more turnover? Have they reached their goal as far as the utilization of that lot is concerned?
I'll tell you what, as someone that used to live in Durham
Yeah.
and used went to school there, just more recently, what I really find interesting is you go to the kiosk, you can park there for an hour.
Yes.
And the gratification of going to it, say, oh, I'm in here for an hour, pressing that button.
Yeah.
It's like, it sends something to you. Like, it sticks. Like, all right, I'm here for an hour, free. And then, at least for me, I'm always thinking about it. It's like, as I go off, wandering around. So it's just kind of, I don't know, it's just an interesting anecdotal experience of mine.
Yeah.
Just.
They were saying you can set whatever
Yeah.
parameters you want too. Like Dover does 15 minutes for free.
It's almost the act of pressing the button.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
free.
I like the app because when you do pay for parking, it tells you how much time you have left and it
Yeah.
sends you an alert. And if you want to add money,
Yeah.
it'll tell you what you can do and stuff like that. So if you are out to dinner or shopping or what have
That's a
you,
good point, too.
so.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like there's still some information gathering for us to do. I would like to find out what you guys think. Are you interested in doing some digging around this and gathering some information together, kind of to speed up this process a little bit? I'm thinking the information gathering that you suggested, Colin, is good. I really like that, just to begin a public conversation about parking and that we're doing something. We're trying to figure something out. I think that's good for kind of to prepare the ground. And then what I always come back to is I think we need to really amp up our sign game and be a little bit more prescriptive about what the parking rules are, so that people are really aware of it and they can't escape it and they can't just say, oh, didn't know. The kiosks, that when you see them, you know there's something going on around the parking. Not having them, what communicates the parking rules? It's a tiny little sign that is hanging fairly high that you may or may not even notice. So I think it needs to be more in your face, more at eye level.
Could we just have like a faux kiosk and just have this like sign there? It's kind of like, oh, I have to go here. And oh, you have to use your app or call this number.
So
Out of order.
we had the signs lower. And people complained they were in their view, so they put them up a little bit higher. I think maybe like a QR code where people could click on it and see the regulations, but or what have you. But I think people tell us they didn't see the sign a lot more than they don't see the sign. It's like, hey, I didn't know what I was doing, and I'm like, well, how did you know to park there? So we get a lot of that. So
I'm sitting here baffled. I do go into Portsmouth, I do go into Dover. I didn't know there were parking apps. I feel like a Luddite here. I go to Portsmouth, I go to the Foundry parking lot, it takes me 5 minutes to walk downtown, it's $1 an hour. I don't even think about it. It's just, I'd rather pay the $1 an hour than to circle and pull my hair out.
I refuse to pay them, so I park at Kearsarge Park.
And
Come
then
down the street, walk into town.
But those are behavioral changes that you have adopted because of the.
I'm speaking. It's someone that likes to walk and is able to walk. So obviously, it's
that is a piece.
see, that's a perfect example because you're gonna not park downtown because there's an incentive.
Exactly.
You don't want to pay the fee, and then somebody else might say, a mother has got her 2 young kids with her and she doesn't want to have to take them on a 10-minute walk, so that might be a different,
smart.
I only say that because I had my grandkids with me the other day and I was trying to figure out how I had them over my shoulder, people were looking at me like, I'm like, I'm never going to make it to this place.
40 minutes per mile.
I'm driving around the block for 40 minutes at the spot.
A little out of practice there. I think it seems to me that we need to collect all of the different options and put together what we want to do here, what makes sense. Consider parking zones for town, and where those might best be placed. I think that I'm looking at you, Bart, because that seems like something that, as the rezoning is taking place, that might be something to kind of throw in the mix there a little bit.
Yeah, it's my real interest is utilizing what we have.
Yeah.
So kind of working with stakeholders on that. Where does it make sense to maybe add some more spots? And what time of year? And seeing if that's feasible or possible. I think having an understanding of that will help us move forward. Because it just allows us to, cross off some areas. Like, all right, we can't do it here, but maybe it's possible.
So what's the process for adding an on-street parking spot in town? What would if let's say there are residents on the street and they say, we could have, if you talk about neighborhood conversations, but people know where you could add parking.
It would have to be described in the ordinance, and I don't have that here tonight, but we have been working on a redraft of the ordinance just in general to be more specific about the parking areas that we do have, because we have added some areas and we've maybe changed some areas. We put a 15-minute spot on Central Street, and so that would be it. You would just say, on this spot, this location, there's whatever parking, whatever, however you want to make it 2-hour parking, all day parking, whatever. But while we're redrafting the ordinance, one of the things we're doing is going around to all the streets, all the areas of the downtown, and describing the Water Street lot. For example, has boat trailer parking in it. So we put that in the ordinance. But specifics like that. But each street would say whether you can park, you can't park, where you can park.
And I think prior to that, we do a lot of outreach too. Because a lot of these streets you can't. So we want to make sure, one, where can you safely put these spots, and two, making sure all stakeholders are involved or included in the process. So it's a little more, I guess, complicated in that aspect if you consider those elements. But as Chief Jordan said, it's the ordinance change that makes it official.
Right, and then, right, there's obviously more. Then we have to, communicate that. We have to physically manifest the parking spaces and the lots, striping, signing, those kinds of things. And we don't have, a Newmarket parking brand. I do think we need one. And I don't mean something complicated or, needs to be designed for 2 years before it's there, but we do need to have something that's used everywhere so that it's recognizable and this is a town lot where these rules apply, not like some of those lots. I don't know if you've noticed them in Portsmouth, it looks like a public lot, but it's, really $20 an hour or something like that. So that, we can feel confident that people who are looking for parking can find it. And then the piece around going maybe up the hill a little bit to add some downtown parking, I think we also need to be clear about the impact that on-street parking has on neighborhoods, and I think we don't want to just assume that residents on the street will love to have parked cars in front of their in front of their homes all the time. So I think we just want to make sure that we go about this the right way, and we don't, because parking is already kind of a touchy issue. We don't want to make it worse.
It is, and I think we definitely have to put some thought into it.
Yeah.
An example would be if you just make Central Street parking.
Yeah.
It will end up like the parking on Exeter Street. The residents will just
Right.
park their cars there. But if you're trying to gain parking close to the downtown, and then you include that in the 2 hours parking, then maybe you've accomplished something, because you're either going to get the revenue from the people that are overtime parking, or they're going to move so you can get some close to town.
Can you do we sell overnight parking? Like only?
The only overnight parking we sell are for the lots
So
Right.
right
now.
Would it be possible to create only like a 1 to 5 parking? So for instance, during the day, just take the Central Street example, you can only park there for 2 hours.
Yeah.
But the residents at night have to pass, and they can park from 1 to 6 a.m. So you're still utilizing those spaces, you're accommodating the folks coming home, there. But again, as business opens, it's now more public. So you're switching, residents to.
See, I think with one of these programs, you could
You could
do
do that.
stuff like that. You could do time periods where, like right now, the downtown is from 6 to 6, 2-hour parking. Well, we want to change it because on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, those 6 to 9 hours are slammed down there. So we want to get people to kind of move around. I said before, it's the residents and the business owners. They're getting home from work, residents, and the business owners or employees. You can even ask the business owners, some of their employees will park right in front of the business, and it even frustrates them because they're like, hey, that's for the customers,
Yeah.
So, so that's part of the change of the ordinance. We're trying to change some of the hours and things.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we talked about this before about the satellite lots. Is you make those free maybe, and then the paid parking's in town, the satellites, free, then maybe, does Newmarket consider some kind of micro transit to get people? Like, they all have sidewalks there, but what if, we make it a little more convenient? Just take
Yeah.
two
Or maybe,
bus.
maybe like he said, some sort of campaign that gives people the Bay Road lot as a 4-minute walk to downtown, or, something that lets people know it's not that bad,
No, I think that's exactly it. I think it needs to be clear that it's not, it's, in 4 minutes, what does that really mean? What's the equivalent, what is 4 minutes? It's nothing.
Inconvenient, that's what it is.
It's nothing.
No,
No, it's a beautiful walk.
But if somebody says 4 minutes,
Yeah.
that's a lot. Like, now people drive downtown and they go to that Bay Road lot just because of the way you gotta get there.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's a long road. I just came down a big hill. Well, what they don't know is that you go across that pedestrian bridge
Right.
and you're already downtown.
Right.
You know?
Right. It's about communicating how you access things. I agree. So you have some work done that you're going to share with us.
Yeah.
Do you think it's worth at this point to reach out to Portsmouth and Dover again, or should we consider that something that you guys just did that? I'm not sure what else we would get out of that. Does it make more sense to maybe go to a community that's a little closer to where we are on the path, like Rochester or Somersworth, and gather information there, especially around signage and developing parking zones and those kinds of things, and beginning the process. What do you think makes the most sense as far as gathering information from surrounding communities?
I think wayfinding. I think that's the next piece that we don't have.
Yeah.
A lot of research has been done already on the
Yeah.
the parking fee structure, or at least the collection thereof. So I'm wondering signage and wayfinding is our next area of research.
I think
efforts.
something that would probably be helpful for these discussions, I know you love maps, having a parking map that shows what our ordinance currently says, so we can then kind of talk
That's a good
about
idea.
where we make adjustments, because looking at it
I agree.
on a map will kind of help with those proximity, what is a 4-minute walk, what is a 6-minute walk, and how many spaces do we have tied in those spots? And then that also could be used for some of our the public communication to, hey, did you know this is where you can park in Newmarket, and these
Yep.
are what the time limits are, and just kind of start a little bit more of that education outreach
Yeah, so-
in association with the QR code.
Yeah. As far as the guy, he talked about it a little bit. I think that both of those gentlemen would be willing to share their information. They seem happy to share it. So if we ever decide that's a good place, they seem to have a lot of information. They might be able to speak to specifics that we can't, because of their knowledge. But I definitely think the map would be a good thing, and that we could share on social media and things like that. But I will say this, the parking is, as much as we think it's bad, I've noticed that it's already getting worse. Like, there's a lot of people here, the college kids are back, we've got a lot of people coming in to buy permits that are like graduate students that are staying here. Almost every apartment building in town is full, and they're all looking for parking, so we think this winter's gonna be a tough one. So, that's why one of the things about the fees is we're hoping that somehow it could add to, down the road, give us more parking or help us to improve parking. We recently leased the Dame Road lot, which is right across from the bowling alley.
Yeah.
And when we first got that, there might have been 1 or 2 cars. That lot is now up to like 10 or 12 cars every night. It's free. It's the only lot we have that's free overnight.
Is it well lit?
Not really, but it's free, and I think free is what some people really like, so, but it, just seeing the increase,
Oh, yeah.
for a lot that is probably the furthest away.
That's
know.
at the NCDC property.
Yes.
It is, yeah.
So they, yeah, I think signage is what we need, for sure.
Do you sell permits for B Street extension?
We don't. The reason we don't is because the rec uses that and rents that out, so we ran into a little bit of a conflict where we didn't want to rent the spaces, and then the rec director was, worried that when they rent it out for a party or an event that it could conflict.
We do like 1 a.m., like 7
Yeah,
a.m.
we certainly could.
Yeah.
Again, that's another lot that's not really close to a lot, so you might get a few stragglers.
You'd say Dame Road though, that's filling up. So I'm
Right.
wondering, once that's capacity,
Yeah.
if we reach that point, then.
Beach
we
Street
have-
extension is also really wide.
Well, the unpaid part, a little different, we have I don't know how many spaces, off the top of my head, but,
Okay.
so, I mean, it's relatively close, even though the network, it makes it far, I guess. But I guess it depends where you live too, at that point, so.
And we already started the map of parking regulation zones and everything in the study, so that's where the second look to see if that's, make sure that's accurate and that sort of thing.
Same thing, I know, town hall, night, to 1 a.m. to 5 p. or 6
Even
a.m. Rent those spaces
The
too.
back lot?
Yeah.
Again, this is why the ordinance is gonna be redrawn, because there was some discussion about the church. The church has
Yeah.
some control over the lot. I know not the back
Yeah,
lot, but the
front,
front.
definitely,
So we should clean that up,
yeah.
And I agree with you, that lot sits empty a lot of times, and it could generate some revenue.
Okay.
Definitely opportunity. Unknown too, that's the thing. So again, goes to your point. Education signage.
Are the parking regulation signs, are they regulated by the MUTCD? I can't remember. This says 2-hour parking or whatever.
I mean, they are the standard sign size for the most part. I don't think they're regulated under it because they're not like necessarily traffic warning signs.
Right.
They're more, because they can be in private lots or municipal lots.
They're informational as opposed to traffic.
When they're
So-
on public roadways, then there are specifics on placement and like colors and things like that.
Okay.
To follow.
Okay. I'm only asking because, Sandra, you were talking about, the visibility of the signs, that they don't stand out, and the branding of the parking. So if the signs can match the branding, they might stand out a little bit more?
Right.
I don't know.
In
Right.
general,
I
the
agree.
blue
The blue
sign
circle.
with the white P
Right.
is a typical municipal parking lot sign.
I think most people, I was gonna say, most people
Recognize
recognize that as.
But I'm
municipal.
talking about the actual regulatory sign that says 2-hour parking from
Yeah, that's
5
not
to,
really-
no.
It doesn't have to be MUTCD.
And anybody can use that white P on the blue background
Yeah.
for their, it doesn't necessarily signify public parking, is what I'm
Right,
trying
yeah,
to
that's true.
get at.
Use
So
that, yeah.
I think we definitely want to have a way to identify public parking lots very clearly. And we probably shouldn't call them satellite lots, because you know what that does? That means it's far away. So,
Convenience spots.
yeah.
How about free spots?
Free spots.
Yeah, no kidding though.
Yeah. Well, I do think there could be a potential problem with doing the wayfinding signs first, in that the pricing of the spaces may want to be included in those signs. So if we tried to do the signs first, we wouldn't have that.
Yeah, I was thinking of like a sign that indicates, or design that indicates parking lot.
Yeah.
P Water Street, P whatever, P Water Street, not good, but you know what I mean. So rather than the individual spots.
Yeah.
I've been hanging around.
Sorry,
It's too much.
sorry. I guess it is, 8:30, and because of that, I think we should probably move on. But I do feel like we need to move on with some steps ahead, something concrete that we can actually tackle and move forward on this, and not come back and hear, more ideas that we come up with during a half an hour of conversation.
What I've heard is continue reaching out to communities with the signage, so the wayfinding. So I think we can start that process.
I think concrete questions that we might generate to ask when we reach out would be good to
Well,
to do
RFP,
here.
RFQ, what they required in those, what did they want? What information were they, through their research, what information did they, want on their signs? How to present it?
Yeah.
So design. And I guess, more numbers too, costs and everything.
Right. I
So,
think cost is
Yeah.
very critical.
How many signs did they go with? Because what we've seen, before is there's a suite of signs that you could have. So, what was the right number for them, for these different communities? What led them to this? Why are they doing it?
Mhm.
Why did they do it? Why did they pursue it? Is there similar challenges that were we
Right.
experiencing? So I think we can do that. We just reach out those. I can think of what Rochester and Dover, Portsmouth, larger communities, but those are the ones that come to mind that have maybe Somersworth too. They have. I'm not sure if they have wayfinding.
Rochester's the one that's had the big wayfinding.
Yeah.
Mike Scala is the person to talk to about
Okay.
his experience. And
Yeah.
before you got here, I was
Yeah.
saying that Mike recently said he wished he had gone one font size bigger
Yeah.
on a few of the signs.
Okay.
Somersworth, I don't think has any, certainly not to that level.
Dover has
Wayfinding.
it. So.
Dover, yeah.
Okay.
So that, and then I don't know how you feel about the chief, but maybe working on the ordinance.
Yeah, so we're
Yes.
working on it, and
Yes.
maybe we could
Yeah,
collaborate a
please.
little bit and come up with some different ideas. And my suspicion is that we'll probably put it in front of a group, and people will have ideas and say, we like this, we don't like that, and then, ultimately, if we come up with something solid, then we can go before the council and
I think we will come
Yeah.
up with something solid.
Yeah.
I think that's the task before
Yeah.
us,
Yeah.
to make sure that we do. And I think it may be helpful. I don't know if you have a time frame in your head, but I think it may be worthwhile to give ourselves a time frame to work this through, so that we, it does help if you have, something kind of pushing you.
I absolutely agree. I'm probably gonna turn this back over to my lieutenant, who's done a lot of work on this.
Yeah.
And who's working on the ordinance component of it, but, certainly, whatever, I don't know what your time frame is, but we think it's a priority. It's been a long time coming.
Right.
And we've been working on it for a little bit, because we're a little frustrated with the old archaic way that everything is being done, and, we just wanna get a new system and help us, it'll help us deal with the parking issues.
Yeah.
We do hear a lot about parking. Currently, the system we have for the permits is very old and archaic too. We just switched to being able to pay online, in the last 6 months. But we want a system where somebody can apply for a permit online, see that there's an open parking spot, and kind of take that out of our hands, so to speak,
Right,
know.
right. That makes sense.
I do have a question, I do. And Chief, you did say you may be able to make copies of that so we could see it. Because I would, rather than replicating the work that you have
Yeah.
done already,
Right.
I'd really
Yeah.
like to see what you have and.
How about if I'll copy this, send it to you, and you can send it to everybody that's
Yeah, that would be
in the
really helpful,
committee or
because
whatever?
It sounds like you've done a lot of legwork already, there's no need,
Yeah.
now we need to figure out where do we need to fill in, rather, if you've got
Right.
information there, thank you very
And-
much. You
And this
saved
is,
us
this
time.
is one side, but I have the ordinance side, and this is the vendor side of the paid parking, metered parking, whatever. And you can see what everybody's offering and, what have you.
Talking about things that I didn't know about. So,
Yeah,
oh yeah, that would be really helpful if the work has been done.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at it and just, then we can fill in, we know what gaps we have to fill in.
Yeah, and also bringing in, Chief Molaski as well into this, so, that's the other.
he's just gonna say he doesn't want
I
any
know,
street
but-
parking.
But he needs to be part of the, he needs to be at the table, so.
No, I think he'll have some valuable information as far as, where we can add parking, where we can't, where it would make it difficult for him to navigate both through the DPW or the fire department, you know. As I said earlier, the Nichols Ave thing is very tricky sometimes. So.
Okay. All right.
And I'll work on the sort of survey thing, some questions and approaches and how that might work. And
I think that would be a fun way to get some more conversation going, and maybe also get the business owners to maybe think a little bit more about where they're parking. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think it would be interesting because you'll find that half the business owners want to be able to park right in front of their business, and then the other half don't want anyone except customers parking in front of their business. So, you know, it's. I'm sure it's that way everywhere, you know. But anyway.
Well, thank you both for coming out tonight. Really appreciate it, and I really appreciate your work to help us along.
All right, have a good night.
Good night. It is 8:35. My suggestion is that we quickly deal with the Coast Route 7 piece, and then move on to the New Village project. Trying to move that through. So as you all know, that Coast Route 7 will be undergoing some changes, or Coast is proposing some changes now that longer range funding has been obtained, and additional funding was secured, foundation funding was secured to expand service. And what they're one of the elements of what they're proposing to do is to eliminate designated stops altogether. There is, I think, a lot of value in that, because you would be able to call for a pickup essentially wherever you are in town, which is wonderful, and it meets one of the goals that that we were kind of given by the folks out at Wadley Falls Senior Housing, which is great. But it made me think about the value of designated stops too, however, in communicating that there is service out there in the first place. And I wonder if what you guys think about the idea of a town designated spot for the bus to always stop, to always be at some point.
I went to the meeting yesterday in Exeter.
Yeah.
For Coast Route 7, because tomorrow's meeting here in Newmarket is in the middle of my workday. Plus, Exeter is part of the service area for the volunteer driver program that
Right.
so I could count that as work time. And what they are proposing is to eliminate the designated spots. It will be anybody from the general public. It's not age related. There's no registration process. If you call by 5 p.m. The day before you want to travel, you can reserve the bus. This time is going to be between 9:30 a.m. The first pickup would be 9:30 a.m. with the bus dropping people off. The last drop off would be 5:15. I'm trying to think. I think it's Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, not and Saturday. So it might be 5 days a week. It is at this point in time. It's an additional 1-year funding.
Right.
It's so effective October 1st, $3 each way. Whereas now with a designated stop, it's $1.50 each way, so it will be a little bit more money. But you can call, the bus will pick you up at your home, it'll take you any place in Exeter. Vice versa, from my point of view, the first thing I thought of is we get quite a few people who will call us from Exeter who are patients at Lamprey Healthcare. And there aren't alternatives at this point in time to bring Exeter people to Lamprey. So from my point of view as running a volunteer driver program, this is fantastic.
Right.
And it will go anywhere within Exeter, so all the medical offices in Exeter. The only glitch will be, because Stratum doesn't participate, The only stops in Stratham are going to be that bubble, Market Basket, and then across the street, the Ocean, the Ocean State and the Staples businesses, because people from both Exeter and Newmarket want to go there. But otherwise, so it is going to be more the people at Wadley Falls. That bus will come right to them. It sounds as though, from what the presentation said yesterday, that they are eliminating the designated spots. They're just trying this new model. I don't know. This is one of the things. This is what Coast is proposing, and they're running it. So I don't know what, where we would have a designated spot, and if this is starting October 1st.
I did, suggest that we might be interested in a designated spot, a stop in town to RAD, and it sounded like they were certainly open to considering that. I do think there is value to having something like that. I do think there is kind of a marketing value to that, and it also. So one of my favorite memories is people in the morning coming together downtown at the gazebo, waiting to go to Durham on Route 5. There were 20 people. There were a lot of people waiting for the bus. It brings people together. You rush across the street to Crack Skulls, get a cup of coffee, and come back and make it just in time to catch the bus or whatever. But people knew where to catch the bus. If you don't know that Coast exists because there are no more stops at all, I feel that people will not, utilize the service as much as they might if they did know that it existed.
I don't disagree with you, but based on what they were proposing yesterday.
No, I know they don't want it. I know that, but we might want to.
Yeah, I mean, they are also talking about. One of the first steps is going to be taking all the bus stop signs down along 108, into Exeter. So I don't know whether they would handle Newmarket differently. And when you look at reality, we're 2 weeks away from this project, from this launching.
Right.
And so I don't know that. I do know who the funding source is, but it came about rather unexpectedly. Let's put it that way. It came about so that they were trying to build on a service that already exists and trying to meet a need, and so much of the community transportation is age restricted. So this is not, which is an advantage.
Right.
It's certainly not fully commuter friendly, because with a 9:30 start time, most people who have to go to work are already there. But it's something.
Right, it is. So do you think there is value to having a designated stop downtown, for example?
I think there's value, but not in the model that they were talking about yesterday, because it's still a matter of having to call by the day before to reserve it.
Oh, sure.
So that to have it's to have a designated spot. I suppose you could say that yes, anytime this route is running, it will pick people up at a designated spot at 9:30 in the morning. But based on this being a reservation system, I don't see how a designated spot would work as much as, in the past, Coast Route 7, every day it ran at certain times, it stopped, people got on, people got off, whatever. So I think there's a value to it. I don't know whether within this model and within the time frame for launching, whether there's a practical way to get it implemented and to get it and to advertise, because that's, really, and the thing that's difficult is, and as you know, because you've been sitting around doing it takes a long time for people to get used to the idea that this service is available. It doesn't, even if you advertise it, it doesn't happen. They're going to watch for a while. They're going to see is it really going to be there? Can I really count on it? So it takes time for these services to click into place. And unfortunately, in the transportation world, it's money. Somebody has to be paying for this bus to be running.
Right.
Yeah, so no, I don't think a designated spot is stop is a bad idea at all. I think it's a good idea. I just don't know whether, within the model that was proposed yesterday, whether
It would fit in.
it would fit in, and with the time frame of this, funding starting on October 1st. That's not a lot of time.
Right.
Is it a bus, or is it a van?
It's 15 passenger. It's
It's a small bus.
a small bus. It is a small bus. And it is, I said, and one of the advantages to this is that it is open to the general public, anybody.
And it's accessible.
And it's accessible. It is accessible, open to the public. You don't have, a lot of the other all the other community transportation programs, there is a registration process where you have to verify that you qualify and so forth. That doesn't exist with this. It's just a phone call.
I asking about the size in relation to the designated stop. We have some pretty narrow, tight streets in downtown.
Mhm.
So, I mean, a van
Yeah.
would fit just fine, but if it was a bus, it wouldn't necessarily be able to access those areas. So having a designated stop that the neighborhoods in the surrounding
Right.
area could go to, and that would be the pickup,
Right.
would make a benefit. But where it can most likely navigate all of those areas, that may not be a factor.
It's a challenge, yeah.
Yeah.
Carol, do you know the route? So it's not going to go from Newmarket over to the Durham direction. It's only going to go down.
No, it's between Newmarket and Exeter only
Okay.
because those are the two towns that are supporting it.
Okay.
Because Coast is, once again, it is a nonprofit. It requires matching funds from the communities in order to access federal funding. So it is only between Newmarket and Exeter. Currently, and up until October 1st, it has a designated route along 108, going into Exeter. It follows the old Route 7, and it's 3/4 of a mile on either side because that was always the standard for paratransit transportation, complimentary. They're eliminating that, so what it has been is now if you were to take the bus from here and you had an appointment, and I will use 21 Hampton Road because that's a core physician facility, the Route 7 does not currently go there because it's more than 3/4 of a mile away from the designated bus route. It would go to Exeter Hospital. Now it can go there. It can go out to the west part, the west side of Exeter. So if somebody at Wadley Falls wants to visit their niece out on West Road in Exeter, they can do that. So it does have that ability. And the other side of the coin is, as I said, people from Exeter can now get into Newmarket. So if they're using Lamprey Healthcare or they're using the dental offices, they can get there.
And how do they do the return trip?
Same way. You
So you-
reserve,
Same
you
reservation
reserve, you make a
system.
reservation. So you call and you let them know, I want to be picked up at 9:30 tomorrow morning and at such and such a location in Newmarket, and I'm going to go here in Exeter, and I need to get back at 2:00 in the afternoon. They might, if it's being utilized enough, they might have to say to you, geez, we can't pick you up at 9:30, but we can pick you up at 9:15 or whatever. They may make adjustments so that they can get more people on to use it. But yeah, when you call the day before and up until 5:00, you can make that reservation. You tell them what you want, $3 each way, which is very reasonable.
And do we know, can we make an announcement here since we have so many viewers? When the meeting is tomorrow and where it is? Do we
It's
have
1
that
o'clock.
information?
It's 1 o'clock, and I don't know what.
Downstairs.
It's downstairs.
Mm.
Yeah,
1
It's
o'clock.
downstairs. It's at 1 o'clock. And it will essentially cover everything that you just said. Announcing the changes to Route 7 and the fact that now you can essentially go anywhere within the two communities and some places on the way. I'm a little fuzzy on what that means really.
Well, that's just, Market Basket and the plazas across the street.
Yeah, because they're going to travel by there anyway, essentially.
Well, that's good, and that's where people want to go.
Yeah.
But those are the only stops in Stratham.
Is there data being collected, like in spots? through this process?
Are there data,
Well, not like personal, like homes, but like, I'm thinking like public places.
public place?
Where-
Origin and
where people are
destination.
going.
Origin and
Origin and
destination.
They'll have all the origin and
Yeah,
destination
yeah.
data.
They're,
Yeah.
they're very good at collecting data, I promise you. They're very, very good at
Yes,
collecting data
yes.
and knowing where people are getting on, where they're going. And so they will have that. And the other piece is that it also lets the people at Waterloo Falls, they can take it to come into town. It doesn't have to be to go to Exeter. It can be, they can use it to be able to come downtown and, go to the library, go to an event at the
Right.
library, meet somebody for coffee. So that it's not anywhere in Newmarket, anywhere in Exeter, and then, growing in between. But certainly, people in Newmarket have things they want to do in Newmarket, and they can't get there.
And you don't have to pre-register, you can just call.
Yep, you don't-
Anybody is eligible.
Yep, you don't have to sign up, anybody can just call. And you have to have exact change, because you have to have exact change because the bus drivers cannot give change. They are going to sell tickets for $30, so that'll be 10 round trips. That, the bus driver can punch the ticket.
They have those $1 increment punch tickets, so they'll just punch 3.
Punch it.
Yeah, because you can use them
Well,
system-wide.
it's just one.
So you could
Yeah,
you could buy this ticket and then then find yourself in Portsmouth someday, and you could use the bus with that same ticket.
Okay, it did sound yesterday like it's gonna be a different ticket for this, but I don't wanna go. There
that's
will be
what
the
I was-
ability.
That's what I was told anyway.
I was told it was gonna be a $30 ticket that you could have 10 round trips.
Oh.
So, I think that is a point of clarification to ask
Yes.
tomorrow.
Yes,
But
yeah.
in any case, somebody can buy tickets in advance so that they don't have to have exact change.
Right.
Because if you give them a 5, the bus driver will not give you change. So,
And that's pretty common around here for
Right.
public buses, that you don't get change anymore, I guess. So that's the big announcement for all those watching out there. And there's the camera right there. There we go.
announcements.
Thank you for watching too. I really appreciate it. We all do. Okay, so hopefully for those who can make it, it's at 1 o'clock tomorrow here at Town Hall. And the meeting will be broadcast so that if you can't join us because you can't get here yet, then you can watch it on your computer or on your computer. That's the only place. We don't on television anymore. Are we still on television?
Yeah, we're still on television.
Oh, we are.
Channel
Okay.
8.
Okay, on Channel 8 too. Great. I don't have TV, so there you go. All right, and we'll see how this service pans out and what we as a town might want to do in order to complement the service. On to the first and last item. We have 10 minutes, unless we want to go past 9 o'clock, and that is to take the next step vis-a-vis our outreach in New Village and the transportation or the traffic challenges there.
Yes. A suggestion would be to form a working group,
Yes.
steering, I don't know.
A project group?
Project group, thank you. So the idea is we only meet once a month. So what we'd like to do is reach out to the community, have 1 or 2 folks from PTAC participate, and basically start, get the ball rolling on and one, understanding if there's a need, want for us to come there and have this forum, and 2, what would that look like if so? So, I guess we're seeking volunteers to kind of help us. So who knows goes?
Anybody? Austin? Carol?
What is it?
I know what a working committee is, I know what an ad hoc committee is. I'm not exactly sure that
It's the same thing.
yeah, no, but I'm not, I
Okay.
get that. The definition of the group, what is the specific charge and how, yeah, exactly, what is the specific charge? What is this committee going to do? am not, I don't know people in that neighborhood, I don't even know where I would start.
Right.
So there would need,
That's, so I'd be part of the committee, and I would help out with reaching out and facilitating. So the idea is just at least have one member on this committee, one or two, just be part of those conversations when we go there. So the idea is to start organizing and planning the event, if an event is wanted. So what we want to do is first reach out to some stakeholders in there, neighborhood stakeholders, community leaders, and get their opinions. One is a good idea. Two, if so, when will it work? What days would be best? Weekend. And then just start getting more detail at that point.
I'd be happy to participate as time allows.
Yep.
Are you interested?
It would
You
depend.
look like you're pondering it.
Well, it would depend on the timing for me. Because from May until October, I'm just really, really busy. So.
Yeah, we are, okay, so, yeah, so if you, I think maybe we just go with you, Simca,
Sure,
right now,
sure.
and then,
Yeah,
and then we might be able to get Michael too,
yeah.
so,
Mike might be.
Yeah.
How about you, Mike?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to.
I was just
You're
saying,
not
this is-
here, you get
this is-
volunteered, that's how it
Yeah,
goes. That's the rule.
Yeah.
Because he knows a lot of people too, so.
I was gonna say, he knows, and that's just, and that's what I picked up on going on the walk, is that, you all were pointing out houses and different people and contacts. It's like, oh, okay, so I don't have that background to offer. So,
So the idea is essentially to reach out and begin to organize the wider outreach if there is a perceived need to be, and I think that there is if we present it the right way. I mean, there's a reason why we're going there in the first place.
That's right.
So, okay, very good. Is there anything else that anybody else would like to bring up that we should talk about? For example, the road safety audit. Is that something that that you think is worth going to, considering the time? No,
There's
okay,
no need to discuss anything.
Okay.
There's not really any update on that right now.
okay, yeah, that's just lingering.
In brief, we have some concepts to ponder,
Mm-hmm,
draft concepts to ponder and discuss with DOT. We've had some conversations with SRPC, DOT, safety folks, some of the business owners in the area. Obviously, Bart and I have been a part of those conversations, and Rick discussing potential pilot opportunities where we could test something, improved lighting, possibly closing a lane, a turn lane, or something that could be temporary, and see how that goes. And for now, we're discussing getting something on paper to implement in the spring.
okay. A temporary measure that is agreed upon as
That's agreed
worthwhile.
upon between the town,
Mm-hmm,
the DOT, various stakeholders, and see how we could implement something, what kind of data collection that would give us. And
so for example, the development of a kind of a central island that people can
a
walk to.
refuge
and-
island
yeah.
type of thing,
Mhm.
or and having some temporary lighting,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Okay, good. But no circle.
We would not likely do a pilot of that.
no.
It's
It
not
is-
being pondered either.
It is part of the draft concepts.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yes, traffic circles of varying sizes.
Yeah, okay.
Slight pondering.
Ponder. All right, with that, I would suggest, unless there's anything else, and there are any objections, I'll consider ourselves adjourned.
Second.
We won't even vote on it.
No.
Unless there's an objection.
Gotta have a.
You want to vote? You want to vote?
We're within 5 minutes, we can just say,
I object.
Thank you.
got one more thing to say?
And we're done, so you can turn this off. If you